Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead, grab the book, Dan. We're
Oh.
doing some tech stuff here. So give me a second. We're still messing around with.
Mom, it's the camera that's.
I know. All right. No. We
Yeah,
are
no.
still trying to figure out how best to do this. Nope. It's not going to work. Hold this.
Okay.
It's just not going to work.
Alright,
Because
my
what I
rising
need,
stand.
what I need is literally the camera right there so I can look at myself. But now the camera is blocking it. The goal is to make eye contact. The problem is when I stare at a digital camera, I can't act. I can't think. I can't improv. I can't.
You can put it on the keys. I don't think it's heavy enough to actually press on anything.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to put it there. But the point is, yeah, and I mean, they're going to get rickety and sick here. But that's my problem. Bottom line, right there. That is my problem. Yeah, I can't. I'll have to look at the camera.
I think you need it like behind the screen.
Yeah, I don't like it. Let me try something different now. Yeah, it's just not going to work. We're still working out tech here with this new camera. I'm still trying to figure out how best to use it. So just give me a second. I know it's rickety and I'm sorry. Try not to puke. All right. Yeah, see, and now we're right back to where I was.
Oh.
So it does extend out.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was saying. Also, this spins for some reason.
Yeah, that doesn't spin. That solidifies it. So yeah. All right, take this book back, please. Yeah, I think this is the best way for it. I just don't see this as going any other way. I'm still trying to figure out the best position for the camera. It's gonna be like 3 days of me playing with lights and then playing around with everything, literally. Playing around with lights, playing around with speakers, playing around with headphones. Now, according to this, it looks like my microphone is not even. Let me see here. Is this working? Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So I have a new microphone coming and I have a new lights coming. And then I'm going to see if I can't play around with the backdrop behind me. I want it to be yellow. Like that's my color. Yellow. All right. So welcome to Anna Imagination and the Healing Garden Authenticity Cities. This is the Queen's Journal. I need my crown. So this is the Queen's Journals. Okay, so here's the deal. I just had a wonderful conversation with somebody. Oh my God, absolutely phenomenal. And I was able in about 15 minutes to sit down and tear apart the psychology of networking. So we think business is over here and we think relationships are over here, romantic relationships, and we think teaching is over here. And that's not true. It's all the same thing. This is human connection. It is the same thing. The tools and the skills that we apply to our children and to our student is the same stuff that we apply when we network and when we interact with our own parents or we interact with lovers or strangers. It is literally all the exact same thing. Now, I've been basically digging back into the ancient times. I mean, like, okay, I will be perfectly blunt. I'm going back to the 3 wise men from the Bible. And the reason why is because they brought gifts. And that hangs up on my head. But there's a lot of things, a lot of like peace offering, giving. And gift giving is really a huge part of the exchange. Oh, see, this is sociology now. This is sociology. This is how my brain works. So I noticed behavior. This is it. Because what we are in is a breakdown of human behavior. So we have a way of doing things in the first era perspective. That is the era of, I can't say the Roman Empire. I don't know what the first one. Oh yeah, hunter-gatherer. That's hunter-gatherer. That was the first era. The second era was, the Ice Age was the first era. There you go. So the Ice Age was the first era. We're talking Neanderthal, hunter-gatherer, anthropology. This is early man, okay? That is the first era. The second era was the Roman Empire. This is Mesopotamia. This is when the majority of people was the second stage perspective. This is second era. The third age is the Dark Ages. And we see this with Genghis Khan, Dark Ages. So the next stage after that is the fourth perspective, and that starts during the Age of Enlightenment, and it goes through to, after the Age of Enlightenment, it goes to right now, present day, literally. The next era is the Age of Authenticity. And that is what we are in. That is what's going on right now, is we are literally transitioning between the Age of Enlightenment into, well, we are transitioning from the fourth perspective into the fifth perspective. That's what's going on. Our political system, the two-party political system, is third perspective and fourth perspective. Republicans are third perspective. Democrats are fourth perspective. The Green Party is the sixth perspective. Now, the Age of Authenticity is pretty much what we're getting into. So you have the Age of Enlightenment to the present day, and we also had the Industrial Age. That was all part of the third perspective. And we are now at the close of the Age of Industrialization, of the fourth perspective. And we are now shifting, sociologically speaking, from the fourth perspective over to the fifth. And that is when we enter the Age of Authenticity. This is the fifth perspective. Now, when we were in the anthropological early stages, that was all highly instinctive, which means it was right. That's actually authenticity before it's conditioned out of us. Authenticity is conditioned out of us when we get to the Dark Ages, when we get to the third perspective. So you have about the first and the second perspective is very authentic. But when you get to the third perspective, that's when things change. Because basically that's when fourth perspectives start to abuse third perspectives, and they force third perspectives into the expectations of the fourth perspective. And then the second perspective is a huge fan of the fourth perspective, so they comply without a problem. And the fourth perspective, the first perspective does whatever the second perspective does without question. So the first, the second, and the fourth perspective are highly compatible. The third perspective is the Lord of the Flies mindset. And there's a reason why. I'm not going to get into it right now. But as a result, the third perspective is where you start to see abuse. Now, that is equivalent to when we are 3 years old. Sociologically speaking, that is the Dark Ages. So what ends up happening is basically there's a lot of abuse that starts to take place because that chaotic Lord of the Flies mentality is so out there. It puts people in a position, the fourth perspectives, where they're like, oh, I don't feel safe with this. Let's change it. Now, here's where everything kind of gets messed up. So from 3 and on, whether it's the third perspective or the third year olds, that's when abuse really starts to take place. And the abuse is going to determine how strict the fourth perspective is and how rebellious or compliant the third perspective is. So if you have a really strict fourth perspective and a highly rebellious third perspective, severe abuse. If you have a lax fourth perspective and a compliant third perspective, no abuse, like none. If you have a highly rebellious third perspective and a really lax fourth perspective, mild abuse. In my case, high strict, high rebellion. Really, like, there could be no, like, yeah. I mean, that's why I was abused so much, is because I was 100% rebellious. The whole conversation was, get in the box. No, I never got in the box. I was never in the box. I didn't have to break out of a box. I was never in one. They never succeeded in put me in. I rebelled. They never succeeded. I was rebelling by the time I was 2 and 3, and then I didn't stop because I was that authentic and that tuned into what I wanted. I was all about me. It was great. So there was this beautiful, like, yeah, and again, and it resulted in significant abuse. So what ends up happening, what we're looking at basically is when you're networking and when you are reaching out and trying to connect with people, you have a lot of people who don't know what they're dealing with. They're completely unaware. They're unfamiliar. And then there's a lot of abuse that people are recovering from. They don't learn trust. And when they don't learn trust, they don't want to open themselves up and be vulnerable. So I realized that with us getting back into authenticity, and then the best way to figure out what's authentic is to look at what we were doing back at the first and the second age, the age of authenticity, or I'm sorry, back with authenticity. So I look a lot at how we did human relations back then, how we did trade, how we did gifting. And I did a lot of social studies as to how they socialized back then versus what we socialize now. I also look at cultural social expectations. Japan is one of my favorite countries with this because Japan still practices the same social practices today that other cultures practiced back in the early anthropology Mesopotamia. One of the big things is you do not give your name unless you give your name first. That is a big deal. In Japan, you do not. And I don't know if it's in China as well, but in Japan, and I know this by the way from anime, like it's huge. So yeah. So it is a really big deal in Japan if you ask somebody for their name, and it's the art form of asking. That's really what it is. It's the psychology of asking. And there's this whole thing, and Japan has it figured out. Also, early antiquity, or I'm saying late antiquity and early or anthropology and Mesopotamia, they had it figured out. And basically, once the Dark Ages hit, we lost all of that knowledge. We lost it because Lord of the Flies happened in our society. And when Lord of the Flies happened, we threw everything out, which is very normal for that third stage perspective. It's a complete refusal of tradition so that you can go off and define the self. It's hyper independence. Now, you're supposed to be highly independent at that stage. You are supposed to have your identity and your resources. That way, you can go out in life, self-regulate with your resources, and determine who you are. It is literally the definition of the self. And you're supposed to do that when you're 3 years old. But our strict fourth perspective parents, guardians, told us no. They suppressed us or they abused us. So in most cases, when we went on this massive walkabout at 3 years old, it was shut down and we never completed it, which is why a lot of people have trust issues, because that's what you learn in the third perspective. You're supposed to learn how to trust people, and you're supposed to learn and accept your own limitations. When you do that, you stop rejecting. You understand what you are capable of and when it's appropriate to reach out for others to ask for help. It's a beautiful marriage, beautiful back and forth. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. So what ends up happening is when you look at societal expectations today and societal interaction today, the Victorian age messed up a lot. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming from the 1600s here. There's a lot coming from the Victorian mindset. I cannot explain to you how toxic these mindsets were. And they are still present today because they were foundations for the fourth perspective era, which is what we're in today. So when we shift from that fourth perspective era into the age of authenticity, we're going to shed Victorian mindset. Finally, the concept that sex is dirty is Victorian. The concept of the patriarchy. Let me just check something here. I need to look up something. I know exactly where the patriarchy comes from, but I need to look up something here. I need to know when the Victorian era specifically is. I need dates. 1820 to 1940. That's what I thought it was. Okay, yeah. So when I say this next line, it's not Victorian. Okay. Queen Victoria. Why did I even think about that? Okay, so when we have this mindset of the patriarchy that's coming from 1600s mentality, that's absolutely coming from a completely different culture. And we are seeing the end of it. So as we pass from the fourth perspective into the fifth, we're going to see that mindset change within our society. It's going to be amazing. It's really awesome. So all of that, basically, that's where we are with that. Now, there is basically okay, so what is the psychologically correct way to socialize? And basically, you have authority and you have power and you have control. Now, we're going to go over these because this is all related. Authority is authenticity, and it's the original author, it's the authorship. It is God or being God. That is exactly what authority is. It is accepting your God status, authority. Now, there is a conduit. Power is a conduit. So you have the authority, the God claimed, and it's very much an ownership, an acceptance, and a claiming. And then you have the conduit of power. Power is just the electrical wire. Well, it's just the wire that carries the current from point A to point B. Control is the current. Control is the energy. So, in order to be authoritative, in order to claim your authority, you have to understand how to wield power to obtain control. Now, if you don't have authority, this is what a lot of people do. If you don't have authority, if you haven't claimed your ownership and mastered the art of wielding the conduit that is power, what ends up happening is you instead try to steal control or take control. And you end up putting your hands directly onto the energy and pulling it by force. This is non-consensual. So you use other emotions like fear, threats, terrorism. You use other emotions as a method to obtain control because you're looking to take it, to claim it, to possess it. Control is an energy. Sex is an energy. Money is an energy. Control is an energy. Energies are consequences. If you try and take an energy, that is what we refer to as non-consensual. Now you're forcing it. And when you force a consequence, you're not going to get it. So there's a lot of people who are trying to force the consequence. Rapists force the consequence of sex. Thieves force the consequence of money. Narcissists force the consequence of control. Abusers force the consequence of this energy instead of naturally obtaining it. So you can either force it or you can obtain it through natural methods. In order to obtain it through natural methods, you actually have to claim ownership. In the case of control, it's authority. In the case of sex, I'm still trying to figure that one out. I'm working on it. In the case of money, the Magi. Oh, I'm going to go back old memories. The Magi. I need Oh, no, 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 no. Magi. Etymology. Magus. Magus. Old Persian. Magus. That's what magi means. What does magus mean? I have no idea what magus means. Greater. Christianity's changed the writings again. So there's Christian rhetoric all over this and not truth. Hate it when they do that. 30 years of this stuff, and I'm still having to weed myself through Christian rhetoric because they changed the history books. Yeah. So they're claiming that magus is Latin. That means more or greater, glory of God, Jesus, the society of Jesus. The problem is the word magus existed like 2,000 years prior to Christianity and God. So that's not accurate. It's illogical. So I have to go back into the old Persian records, which I've done before. I love doing this. I have to track back, but the magus are related to money. Oh, do I know it? I can feel it. That's the path. The magi were wise men. Now, the word magi gives us the word magic. Magical, magician. I've done this word before. It's been, oh my God, 25 years since I've researched this word. And that's when that's how I knew to pull it up. That's how I know it's related to money. I just got to refresh in my memory because it's been 30 years since I've looked at my research here for this. So once I look into magus, so that's wisdom. Now it's Persian. Persian. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Magi. Meaning. Let's do definition. A member of the priestly caste of ancient Persia. Now we're talking. They were referred to as sorcerers. Now we're getting into it. Zoroastrian, that I did know. I did know about that, the Zoroastrian. Now, the Zoroastrian were the first astrologers. They were the ones who actually studied astronomy and astrology, and they followed the star, which is why, according to the biblical studies, they were following the star that night when they met Christ is because they were astrologers. They studied astronomy and astrology. Okay, so then that's the Zoroastrian. So we're talking ancient Persia. I love ancient Persia. It's one of my favorite cultures to study. Oh my God, do I? And it was the priestly caste. Now, they did not view priest as the Catholics did. Their definition of priest is different. I want a history of the magi. I do not know how to pronounce this word. And this is another one of my problems with, if you have somebody, oh, I love this. I love this so much. Oh, I love going into ancient Persia. This is old stuff. Yeah, I don't care about the Christian religion. That comes in too late. I need to go back prior. So Pseudo-Zoroastrian, this is before Helen, or before late antiquity. The Magi are priests. Mithraism. All right, there we go. This is like waking up memories. Mithrais is Mithra. I know this. Mithras, Roman mystery religion of the god Mithras. The Zoroastrian divinity, Mithra. Mithra is Mer or Mithras among Romans, is an ancient Iranian deity of covenants, light, oath, justice, and the sun, contracts, and friendship. In addition to being the divinity of contracts, Mithra is also a judicial figure and all-seeing protector of truth. Interesting. And the Vedic common noun is Mitra. Oh, we're going to break this down. This is definitely related. attributed to Zoroaster himself. Like most other divinities, Mithra is not mentioned by name in the Gathas, the oldest text of Zoroastrianism, and traditionally attributed to Zoroaster himself, or by name in the Yasna Haptangati, a 7-verse section of the Yasna liturgy that is linguistically as old as the Gathas themselves. Like I said, this is old. This is old. These were scholars. These are equivalent to the Irish Fili. Oh my God, these are old. I love this. I can feel how old it is. Prior to the Roman army, 1st to the 4th century. The mysteries were popular among the... So they were unknown and mysterious to even the Roman Empire, which means Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria, even had limited resources. That is impressive. Okay, so Mithraism is a modern convention, so I can throw that out. That is a bastardization of their... Here we go. The name Mithras is Latin equivalent to the Greek M-I, the theta, and a bunch of Greek letters I don't know in the form. The name of an old pre-Zoroastrian and later on the Zoroastrian god. So we're talking pre-Zoroastrian. That is old. Now, the reason why this matters is because these wise men had social status figured out. They had social status figured out. Magi, priests, early religions. King Darius the Great, that's Darius the First of the 522 BCE. That's where it all, he even cites them, the Magi. Okay, and a meaning that still survives the modern day words magic and magician. What I want to know, what's bothering me, and this is my hang up, this is why I'm focusing on this particular thing, is was it magical based? Because the word sorcerer, or was it mystery? Now, when there is mystery involved in something, we refer to that. I'm going to have to go off Wikipedia. I know where I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go into ancient texts and read the original translations. That's where I'm going to have to go. That's because I got to go back. I got to go back further. So, whenever you have something that's mysterious, it is a huge clue that magic is involved. It's, oh, we don't know what this is. Magic is the slap on to help us understand. We don't know that. We're going to call that mystery thing X. So mystery thing X is called magic. Literally, mystery thing X is called magic or miracles. So you had these magi who are literally, they were scholars, they were wise, and they were unknown. They were mysterious. Now, in most cases, mysterious simply means they had education that someone else lacked. So we're talking about a lack of education. And the more we learn, the more the mystery is unshrouded, the more we understand. So if we don't understand something, we slap the word magic onto it, or crazy, or miracle. So whenever you run into one of those three words, that's a huge clue that somebody was uneducated somewhere and they didn't know what they were dealing with. So now that we're in a position where we have the education, you can go back and you can look at somebody who is actually conducting miracles, and you can start understanding the science and go, oh, I understand what's going on. Christ was just manifesting. Christ was just manifesting. Not a miracle. He manifested. I wonder if Moses was a manifester, which explains his miracles. You know, and he had to ask the stone to produce water. And he didn't ask. He tapped it. ask. We're back to ask. And the energy made him wander the wilderness for 40 years because he didn't ask. He used violence. Ask. I'm like breaking down the psychology of asking. Now, according to these magi, God, the gifts. It's whenever somebody visited a kingdom, you brought a gift. It's a peace offering. The universal language of peace is gifts. The universal language of peace is gifts. The universal language of peace is a gift. When you extend a gift, you make an offering. That's a word we don't use anymore. We offer it. This is the point of choice. I'm going to refer to this as the point of choice. I'm watching the science fiction show right now, Foundational. She brings a gift. You have the point of choice. Accept, reject. This is really important. The point of choice, I'm building a flow chart, provides control. It is a power. It is the conduit. A gift is the conduit of power. You've transferred the power from the giver to the potential receiver. So you have a giver, but that doesn't mean you have a receiver. You have a potential receiver. Now, I have power. I give you a gift. Now, the power has been passed to you. I no longer have the power. You have the power. You now have a choice. Accept, ignore, reject. In relationships, we call this the bid for connection. In business, we call this trade. You have a giver. I have my authority. You have your authority. I want a relationship with you. Here is my gift. I'm going to give you a piece of my power. Now I'm going to respect your power because I've relinquished control. I have made myself vulnerable. Giving is a vulnerable allowance. Wow. It's an allowance of vulnerability. Fascinating, isn't it? I have allowed myself to be vulnerable. Now, you have become the potential receiver. You have a choice. The power is now yours. I have given you a piece of my power in exchange for my vulnerability. Fascinating. So power can be traded for vulnerability. Ooh. Ooh, I already know where this is going. So the potential receiver has a choice: accept, ignore, reject. If you accept it, you receive. Now you are the receiver. If you ignore it, that's now basically a lack of acknowledgement. It's a lack of validation. And the rejection is a refusal of your vulnerability. Now, this was an energy exchange. It's your turn to now be vulnerable. If you've accepted, it's your turn to be vulnerable. This is where reciprocity comes in. This is why people don't give. Now, this is the art of human connection. There are 3 parts to this transaction: giving, point of choice, receiving, ignoring, rejecting. It leaves the giver vulnerable. Vulnerability is what is really being transactioned here. Vulnerability is the transaction. Wow. Holy shit. Vulnerability is the real transaction here. And if no one is willing to be vulnerable, this is where humility comes in. Humbleness. Humbleness is vulnerable. Humility is submissive. There's the difference. Humble is vulnerable by choice. Humility is submission by force. Now, if you have somebody who comes along who takes your vulnerability, wow, this is intense, who takes your vulnerability by force, now you are looking at somebody who is a thief, a rapist, a taker. Those are your options. They are a thief, they are a rapist, or they are a taker. The thief takes money. The rapist takes sex. And we're back to what are they referred to as if they take, what are they referred to if they take, God, I'm going to figure this out. Control. They use control. They use control to project. They use control to project power. Oh, they use control as a surrogate conduit. There it is. All right. So a thief or a rapist uses control as a surrogate conduit. That is the violation. Ooh, that is the violation. They are using control as a conduit. It's a consequence. And then they think they have authority. They think they have power. No, they don't. They are a thief or a rapist. They're not at all. They are literally finding this is the root of all evil. This is the root of all evil. It is when you use control as a surrogate conduit. That is fucking dirty. Because what you have done is you have taken a receiver and you have forced them to receive. This is consensual receiving versus non-consensual receiving. There it is. Oh, and there's one more piece to this. There is also consensual giving and non-consensual giving. When you ask someone for your name, for their name, without giving your own, you are asking them, you're actually putting them in a position where they have to be the non-consensual giver. That's the problem. When you ask somebody for a gift, you have forced them. There it is. When you ask for a gift that is asked for is not a gift at all. A gift must be consensual, and it is the core beginning of human connection. This is all of it. When you ask something from somebody, it doesn't matter if it's their name and their identity. You have forced them, you have put them in a position of non-consensual giving. And you are now receiving. I want to be a receiver. Well, the giver has to consent. The power is passed to the potential receiver. The power is with the choice of being the giver. Forced vulnerability. As a giver, you allow your vulnerability. But if someone comes up to you, what's your name? And that's why we get defensive. You answer the phone. Who's this? You want me to be vulnerable? You want me? You just asked me to be a non-consensual giver. I didn't agree to be the giver. You want my name? You give me yours first. That's why we do this. Is because you have to choose to give up your power in exchange for vulnerability. There it is. Oh my God, this is it. This is the heart of what we do when we do transactions. This is sexual transaction, monetary transaction, time transaction. This is it. This is what the wise men knew. This is what we had figured out in the 1st and the 2nd century before the Dark Ages. This is why I was looking at the sociology of that's why I got off into that tangent, is because I needed to get back to the root of it. Reverse psychology, or not reverse psychology, reverse engineering. This is it right here. So when you are engaging somebody sexually, or you're in a bar and you see somebody that you want to engage in and learn from them, hi, I am so-and-so. Now, you have given them the power and you are vulnerable. Now they have the potential receiver. I've given them my power by giving them my name, by putting myself out there. Now, if you have trauma, you are going to have a problem with this, which is why you're not socializing. And if you're trying to go to a networking event, this is why. This is why. It's because you have to be vulnerable first. Because power is the exchange of vulnerability. Wow. A narcissist will never be vulnerable. This is about consent, vulnerability. That's what this is. Consensual vulnerability. Consensual vulnerability versus non-consensual vulnerability. That's it. Now, if you want to learn how to network, I am offering a gift of a free workshop for anyone who wants to learn how to network. They will improve their ability to connect with people. They will improve their ability to pitch, and they will see a massive increase on how well they can deliver and improve their ability to network within networking events. If you don't know how to network, you're just pitching and selling at a networking event. So I offer free networking classes and networking workshops to anyone interested in learning. This can be applied to your romantic life. This can be applied to your children's lives, to your parenting, to your student teacher, and to your client consumer relationships, all of it. If you are interested, go ahead and I'm going to grab my Linktree account. It's in the link below, and just click on Contact Anna and let me, why am I talking about myself in the third person? Let me know that you're interested in signing up for that course. That's it. Thank you so much. If you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow, comment below. Let me know what part of the show resonated with you. And if you want more shit like this, grab a look at my Linktree account and look through my Authenticity Cities city directory. I am building my community and I want people to join my community. So go ahead and take a look at the Linktree and see if there's anything there that resonates with you. If you want to sign up for my workshop, grab that Linktree account and contact Anna. Let me know that you are wanting to join my workshop and I will get you the information. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.